Pregame.com.
Chicago plus 3.5 at Tim Tebow's Denver Broncos. Marco, I was waiting all week for this. Another win with Tebow. You got to answer for it.
That's it. I'm done. I've had enough. Forget it. Screw this.
Oh, God. Remember, we're G-rated. We're G-rated.
That's it. Forget it.
Maybe we should have done this video last. Uh-oh.
All right, Tim Tebow. I can't beat him. Let's join him. Tim Tebow. You're the man. You're the man. All right, let's do this video.
We should have done this one last though.
This is the last one today.
All right, so who do you like in this game?
I'm taking the Bears. I am. All right.
I figured.
But I'm sporting it. Okay. In homage to Tim, I'm gonna go ahead and sport it.
Now let's make a bet. Maybe is if Denver covers, you have to actually get a silk screen of Tebow's bicep.
I almost I was gonna spring for the actual Tim Tebow jersey. But I've been losing so much money going against them, I couldn't afford it. So we had to settle for just a T-shirt.
All right, well, this is fun. And by the way, Dustin, at about 2 or 3 points, producer Dustin, during the video, please throw up our favorite picture of Marco and his Tebow garb. All joking aside, what is your thinking in this game?
Honestly, I mean, all the weeks that we've been talking about Tebow, last week's the first week I really did step out with a play against him. I had opinions that I don't like him, but last week I made a premium play on Minnesota.
I like Minnesota too.
It was the only game I lost on Sunday, and we really shouldn't have lost the game. I mean, when you have 489 yards of offense, that's what Minnesota had. We're talking with Christian Ponder and no Adrian Peterson. You put up 489 yards. You just give me that stat and say, who do you want to bet? I would be betting the house, and you would see me in a box, one of the off-ramps of the 215 because I would have lost my house. But
So what did you see in that game that makes you think that it was fluky? Because at some point now, and we've done the math, they've won 5 straight games, the Broncos, as underdogs. They were underdogs mostly on Sunday. Some spots they actually went to be a slight favorite, but 90+% of the action was on Denver as an bet while Denver was an underdog, and the public strong majority was on Denver. 5th game in a row they won as an underdog. Only the 3rd team since 1988 to do that. All right, so let's think about that a second. This is 20-plus years in the NFL. Only 3 teams have won 5 straight as an underdog. So that was historic. If you would have started betting $100 on the first game and let it ride, it was like $23,000 you'd win on Tebow. This has been a crazy run. What is going on?
Well, first of all, to dissect that stat that you're given, stop and think about it. It's the first team that's won, because normally when teams start winning that many games in a row, they become a favorite. They don't have an opportunity to win that many as a dog. Vegas is still telling you they don't believe in Denver yet because they're still making them a dog in all those. That all changes this week, and that's why my pick is, again, I am going to go against Denver because this team is not built to be a margin team. Last week, Minnesota, they've got an average defense, not a super defense, but average. They were able to devise a game plan. Whatever they did worked well. They limited Tebow running the football last week. They forced him to become a passer last week to win the game. He put up nice yards passing the ball.
How many points did they score?
Did you watch the game?
No.
It was absolutely crazy game. The passes that he completed, he had a lot of yardage. He threw for over 200 yards, which for him is a lot of yards, but they were catches and runs after the catch. They were so geared on stopping the run.
But isn't that what the NFL is about? Is any team can stop anything, but they're going to be susceptible and exploited on the other side. Is against Peyton Manning, you could have run, somehow, some way, these smart defensive coordinators that understand the X's and O's better. If you said you win $1 million or $100 million if you make sure Manning doesn't throw for 250 yards, they could probably do that 90% of the time. But they're going to lose the game because they're going to allow the rushing so easily. Doesn't this prove that Tebow can do it no matter what? That if you play a normal defense against him, he's going to run and you're not going to know what to do. You try to stop his running, he can throw well enough. This is
why I gave him homage.
But doesn't this make you say, well, there's no way to stop him then?
Well, let's face it.
Got the shirt.
We got the shirt.
Put up the picture.
The situation, he was 10 of 15 last week, 186. He didn't quite get to 200 yards. But
how many points did Denver score?
Is
this fantasy football?
They had turnovers that set up.
And we've already talked about this. Is that the Tebow factor is about the energy of the team, the camaraderie, the sense of even when we get down, we're fine. That's what this is about. It seems like.
I agree 100%. And I said this on Gil's podcast last week, the Mega Pod that we do on Fridays. There isn't a team in the NFL that's got better team chemistry right now than the Denver Broncos. I agree with that 100%. I will tell you this much. Tebow means a lot to this team. Absolutely. I can't argue that. But I would say Von Miller means more to this team than Tim Tebow because this Denver
I don't think more than Tim Tebow.
This defense went back to the defense that we saw in the first 5 weeks with him out of the lineup.
And you might have a point there.
Minnesota went up and down the field.
But let me ask you this. If I would have told, what was the final score of that Minnesota game?
35-32.
If I tell you that Minnesota's putting up 32, and you can make your
I'm in
bet.
a box again. I would have been in a box twice last week.
It speaks again. Before the talk was, well, the defenses aren't adjusting for it. After a couple weeks, they're going to figure it out. They adjust this week, he puts up 35. Or last week, he puts up 35. Now, the other talk is, it's really maybe he's influencing the defense with his energy and enthusiasm, but the defense gives up 32, and he still wins. So it's like it seems like he's knocking the excuses out each week. If you need me to score 35, I'll score 35, he's telling you.
Now, I'm going to give you Chicago, but we're going to go a step deeper.
All right. Okay?
I'm going to go ahead and give the play. It's not my best bet. We'll be giving the best bet when we do videos later in the week with Steven Nover. And by the way, our video best bet's on a 9-3 run.
Awesome.
So it's 2 years in a row. I mean, since we've been doing these videos, that's been the signature with those video best bets of the week. We're going to take Chicago, but I'm going to tell you where you can go a step further with Chicago, and I think there's outstanding value. And I know you do it every week. You do a teaser. You give out your teaser of the week. I will have Chicago in a lot of teasers because this Denver team is not built to be a margin team. And you tease this up. So
this wouldn't be a typical advantage teaser, which goes through 3 and 7. You're going to be going through 7 with a 6-point tease.
Yeah, we're going to be going through 7. On this one, I will go the 7 because they're
7-point tease.
Because I want to get through 7 and I want to get through 10. And I think it presents outstanding value because I just don't see this Denver team as a team that's going to extend a lead. If they do have that lead, they're going to be running the football, and they are playing a Bears team that, God, what more can go wrong with the Bears? I mean, injury-wise, this team is decimated. But
which is one of your favorites, which is the injured player theory. Is the first game of players out, they step it up. The team steps it up, and the public overreacts. I wonder if this is an overreaction, though. And so here's a concept that I think is very interesting. When Denver was considered a really bad team, and when Tebow took over, and remember, when they got blown out that second game that Tebow played, there was all kind of stats or prop bets out. How many games will Tebow start the rest of the year?
Right.
And it was like the total was 5.5, I think, or whatever. And they took it off the board because everyone was betting the under. They didn't even want the action because after that blowout, everyone thought, all right, experiment's over.
Well, especially if you remember, the coach didn't even want to make that switch. I mean, he publicly...
So Denver was considered, they were in the suck for luck sweepstakes in people's minds. People were like, oh yeah, we'll see Tebow stinks and then they'll get luck. That was the talk you heard. Like they were trying to actually conspire against win or sabotage their own season was the talk. So at the time, I felt like Tebow had a positive better bias. Now let me explain what I mean. Everyone thought they stunk, but there was a certain segment of the people that loved his spirituality or whatever it is they love about him, and they said, I'm betting on Tebow regardless. All right. So there was an unnatural amount of people betting on Denver at that point. Okay. Which I thought made it where fading Denver made sense, though it certainly hasn't against the spread. Now, I think for a team that's won 5 straight games as an underdog, you've got the flip side of that spirituality contingent is the contrarians that hate spirituality. They hate when anyone talks religion or praise. I hate that. And you see as much disdain for Tebow, it seems like, as you see love for him. I think now, typically, if you have a team that's as hot as anyone in the NFL, you would think they would have a ton of action on them. But I think that 20% contingent, which is going to not bet on him no matter what, now has there to be an unnaturally small number of people willing to back a team that is so hot. So personally, I look at this line and say this is saying the Denver's a slightly better team without Chicago's starting quarterback and without Chicago's main offensive force and forte. Is that really, do you look at that and say, wow, what crazy premium are they putting on Tebow?
Well, see, I think, RJ, what people are looking at, and again, this is the people that handicap for a living. They're going inside the numbers. You keep going back and you look at the results. He won the game, but then you look at the stats and you look at him and you go, how did he win this game?
But doesn't it at some point show you that computerized, hey, let's forget how many points are actually scored, but let's say each yard is worth, 1/10 of a point, and add up the yardage and project out the score, that maybe that doesn't tell the whole story? Because if it did, I think that there'd be teams like let's be honest for a second. Let's look at the San Diego Chargers last year. Number 1 in yardage on offense, number 1 in yardage in defense, and don't make the playoffs? Yeah. There's got to be more to it than the box score.
There's intangible. I mean, the New England Patriots last year, if they went, they had the best record in the AFC, but if you looked at their stats, they lost, more games than they won in the stats, but they won the game. So yeah, it's a number that it works both ways. It can get you in trouble sometimes. I'll admit it got me in trouble last year with New England because I would keep looking at games that way. But
I think most of the time you're right, and I think that what the next level needs to be is there rare exceptions? I tell you, who wants to get in front of... But you know what you're like? I remember I used to be a huge fan of the old gambling books because before Amazon, I was a big fan of used bookstores. And I would go and always go to the gaming section, and you'd find books from the 50s. And one of the things they talk about gambling is, well, the whole chasing, double up doesn't work because eventually either you don't have enough money to bet or the limits are bad. Because if you had unlimited money and the house had unlimited money, in theory you could double your bet every time and eventually you would win and you would get your money back. I feel like that's what you're doing with Denver. At some point, they're not going to cover, and you're going to come in with your chest puffed out.
Well, like I said, last week is the first week that I made a premium play going against them, and this is the situation. I mean, I've made a couple plays. I had against them the Detroit game the second start of his, but this is a situation that they're going against the best defense they faced so far. Last week, the Bears. If you saw the game, what they did, now granted, it was Kansas City with a backup quarterback, but they held Kansas City to 214 yards, and 38 of those 214 yards came on the last play of the first half where Tyler Pelko threw up a Hail Mary at the end of the first half, and it was a fluke. The guy caught it in the end zone for the touchdown, which proved to end up being the game winner. It was a 10-3 final. So, Denver as a favorite, it's like in horse racing. You have a horse that's winning. Now all of a sudden they move the horse up in class and they put the maximum weight on him. He's got to carry 126 pounds. Now he's handicapped. The Denver Broncos are now in virgin territory. They're a favorite with Tim Tebow.
All right. One point, a lot of people, especially older bettors, remember Denver having a great home field. Since Mile High, I think 2001 was the last year for Mile High. In the last 51 games at home. They've only covered 31%, 16 winners, 35 losers. So in general, I think they've been overvalued at home, which also feeds into your play. All right, guys, it's your turn to continue the conversation. Each week we put all of our videos in one super forum thread. You can go there directly, pregamevideos.com, and all of the participants discuss anything we talked about. You can ask any questions you want. Talk to you there.